Civil rights isn't just the opportunity to vote for the same stupid people that we have. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a big deal. So, when I was on my way here tonight, I wondered, what would I say? It's 20 years celebration for Womancare, and it's 32 years for me talking about issues that haven't been solved yet or secured or guaranteed for any of us and all of us. I'm going to say something to you. All of you, right now, have to look at who you are and what it is you want. And if you think somebody else is going to make a decision for you, you're crazy. We have an opportunity to vote for women and men who support choice. And if you don't do that, just remember that the Supreme Court is going to make a decision within the next 30 days that's going to affect every single woman in this country. The Supreme Court does not belong to us. It is not our Supreme Court. And in my lifetime, this Supreme Court, I will not be able to depend upon to make any decision that's ever going to touch my life in a way that I want them to. This Supreme Court does not belong to us. This Supreme Court belongs to Ronald Reagan and George Bush. It does not belong to the people of the United States. And I am telling you, there were many reasons for me not wanting Clarence Thomas. The fact that he watched dirty movies was not one of them. Tonight we celebrate Womancare. We celebrate our power. We celebrate the opportunity to reach inside who we are, to choose our values and our principles, and to stand up for them and do something about it. We have that opportunity. There was a man who said that it is not what you think about in life, it's what you do about what you think about in life. It's what you feel, it's what you believe in. I am asking you tonight to leave here with a commitment to making sure that Womancare stays alive financially and that we support it in a way that it can continue to give the service that it does. I am asking you to use the power you have individually. I am asking you to use the power you have politically. I am asking you to become awesome because you can. You can make the changes. Remember when a war in Vietnam was making everyone in this country very angry and was dividing us. When the people of this country came out of their homes and out of their workplaces and said, we want an end to their war, it ended. When women in this country organized and said, we want to be legalized in the Constitution of the United States, we want to be treated equally, the women's movement started. And when a president of the United States embarrassed us, he resigned. When the people of this country really want to do something, they can do it. And I am asking you to really want something for yourselves. Peace, justice, equality, and personal freedom, and a level of human dignity that every single one of us has the right to the moment we are born. For our children, and for those women who decide to have those children, we need to give to them prenatal care so those babies don't die before they're a week old. And for the rest of us, we must always guarantee that we have the right to choose. You have that opportunity. There's every speech I've ever made, I always end, and I will end now. I'm a lecturer, I get lots of money for this speech, and this piss head is getting me off the stage for a free speech. hoping I really had a sore throat tonight. Ashley, you know I always end the speech with this, and I want to. I was accused once of being a humanist by Jerry Falwell, who of course is an expert on humanists. And Sam Donaldson called and said that Jerry Falwell had called me this, and he said, "Midge, you have a response." And I said, yes, I do. For some of you who know I'm from New York, it could have been 2 words. But after all, I was not from Brooklyn, I was from Rochester. And I thought maybe I'd have to explain to Sam what that all meant. And so I wrote this instead. I said, yes, I admit to being a humanist. And I want the human race to survive. I want our Earth to survive. And I'm so self-centered that I'd even like to help make this a better, fairer, more peaceful world, where we use our brains and our strength and our resources to make sure that people have enough to eat, a place to live, a chance to work and learn and love, and to enjoy being alive. That was the commitment I made when I decided to live instead of exist in my life. It's a goal I haven't reached yet, which saddens me. And it's a goal I wish you would share with me. It's not for me, but for yourselves. Reach in, use the power and the strength you have to mold and direct this nation and send it on the journey that it should be on. Each of us in building, being alive. That's really what it's all about. And so I'm really happy that you asked me to come here and celebrate with you. And thank you very much for listening to me and for supporting Womancare. Thank you.
Some of you know I'm from New York too. They call me a buster. And some of you know when asked, what's a feminist anyway? That Rebecca West in the earlier part of the century said, I'm never sure exactly what a feminist is. All I know for certain is that I'm always called one whenever I clearly differentiate myself from a doormat. She's a feminist. And I'm happy to say that our next performers are feminists too. But before I introduce the San Diego Women's Chorus, I'd like you to acknowledge the presence of Peter Navarro, who's running for mayor. Again, after MIdge, the only other group I could say doesn't need an introduction is the San Diego Women's Chorus. This extraordinary group of women and feminists who dedicate their music to women's struggles and women's experience and the diversity and the difference of women's experience are here to share a number of songs with us under the direction of Dr. Cynthia Lawrence Wallace. Please welcome her. like to, we have a shorter program after the admission, but we do have some wonderful punch and cookies, and what we'd like to do is take 10 minutes, get a breath of fresh air, and come back because part 2 of the program is extraordinary, and you'll be glad you stayed. So see you in about 10 minutes.
Mother.
That quick?
We're not doing a waiting list. Here. Is it nice over there? Carol. Hi. I don't know. I should put on your ordering pizza. Maybe you have to sit at the table and order it from the waitress. I don't know.
Illinois is known for its prairie space. Florida, the sunshine scene, made from goddamn pine trees. The Illinois state is Alabama. Let's take a bit more. The enchanted state is Mexico. Montana's a regular Mexican treasure. Louisiana caters to a sportsman's pleasure. Wyoming equals equality. Bluegrass grows in Kentucky. Connecticut and a big famous state. The Diamond State is Delaware. Kids love the state's nicknames. Missouri, they say.
Oh, you're on the camera.
In Ohio, the trees of that decides British beans bring fame to the
Fix it around that hair.
If you're in Oklahoma, you're a Sooner fan. If you're in Pennsylvania, you're a Keystone man. Texas is the Lone Star State, did you know? Virginia was the...
And now, introducing the cast of our show. Ellen Henning, Anna Squally, Jasper T. Childs, Mr. Munch, and the star of our show, Chuck D. And we'll see you later. So long. Bye.
Oh, that's beautiful. Now, what's its name?
I don't know.
Don't say Harold. Swedish, huh?
Uh-huh. Well, it's black, and then when it opens up the wings...
Open wings.
Rewind. So it stops. No, but I think it's missing the holes. That's why I'm asking. Doesn't sound right to me.
I would get rid of that roll of film.
It's my whole little finger. Yep, I think. No,
Of course you should.
I just exposed it because I opened up the back because I thought it was rewound.
Well, as long as it makes noise, it's not.
Hi.
You take two pictures.
Take your hat off.
Sure?
Not you.
Okay.
It's okay. It's good. Hat or hat
One
off.
more. Advancing? Okay, good. Close the one. No. Oh.
And what kind of bird are you, madam?
I am the blue hibiscus bird from the Hawaiian Islands.
Ah. What kind of bird are you, little one over there?
I am the albino Bike Costanza bird. Thank you.
And did you see that about the Japanese man? And at the time, he'd be the keeper of the program.
Oh, I am a very good program keeper. Queen of the program. Right?
Uh-huh.
Jill said her dinosaur thing has a time.
Did you want to go to the dinosaur thing?
I've never seen it.
All right, let's go. Sherry, great bird sounds.
Oh, that would have been right by.
Wakunda. Hi.
We got stickers and kind of.
Yeah. You want these?
Look down at Makunda again. Well,
These are all the texts that we see.
yeah, you look how they put the.
Well, I should have packed
I love that.
Everybody has my mom.
You know, you can't even see the head from this view.
With a lot of them, you couldn't really tell the front from the back very well. That was in your very first dinosaur book that I went to you when you were about a year and a half. There was Saurolophus. You used to know the name of all our dinosaurs.
Oh, you remember to Fantasia when we're watching the fairies?
Oh, there's the sun.
Wow, I love it. That was a mess, Mom.
Kitty wants some Tic Tac.
Yeah, that's an old book too.
Really?
Oh yeah, there are some of those. Looks like it got too close to a porcupine though.
I have to zoom in on this nose here.
It's almost like animation exhibit. Up past there we have different gardens, like our bonsai gardens, our fishing and filling houses. Walking around a lot of different horticulture, different vegetation we have here. As we move out over Cat Canyon, We're going to have Sumatran tigers on the right. There's our Grevy zebra. The largest of the equine, the largest of the zebra family. Just below us, we're going to have a little Persian gazelle. That's tan animals. There are a few of them down here. Then, of course, if they're out in the valley, out in the grass, this is Jampur and Japuri. Jampur on the right-hand side, Japuri, his mother on the left. Jampur is just about 3 years old.
I can't see it. Oh, there they are.
I see quite a couple of other younger ones coming up. Again, these will be Persian gazelle below us. Most of these are full adults. About 35. Our oldest ones are a couple months old. End of April, throughout May, throughout June, most of our young ones.
Where? Where?
At the same time, up on our left, these will be Eastern Kiang. There's two of them there. We have one more than one right now. They are the largest of the wild ass family. He weighed in 165 pounds at birth, which is a little above normal, 140, 150 is normal. But the adults weigh somewhere around 5,500 pounds on average. So they need to gain quite a bit of weight fairly quickly to reach their ultimate weight. So in the first couple of years, they gain just about 100 pounds a month. So he's 18 months old, he's already pushing 50 pounds. But his mother gained it. He's our largest Indian rhino. She tips the scales quite a bit over 6,000 pounds. Big animals, but they're not really respectable to hang out because we're hunting of the animal. Well, at that time we opened up, we decided we would do what we could to help them out. So we took 6 animals from different captive sources and we started captive breeding them. And in our 20 years we've been around from our original 6, we just had our 253rd birth. We've been able to reintroduce over 50 of those back out into the wild. So again, exemplifying what we're trying to accomplish. Number 1, captive breeding of all of our animals. Number 2, reintroducing those endangered species back out into the wild. And then finally bringing those. Keep their spots in their lives because it helps not just that much more in the environment. Gives them a little bit added camouflage. The big brown beasts also down here, these are Indian Gowra cattle. The largest wild cattle family. 6 feet at the shoulder, a couple thousand pounds is what most of those females are. They also about 6 feet. Great fence line. About halfway back in the shade of that bush hanging over the fence and then all the way back. Gray animals are antelopes. They're the Chinese Garral. They are considered a true species mixed between a goat and an antelope. We have had 2 born so far this year, so they are considered a true species. They are viable animals and have offspring. We add that to the vegetation we use. hard on the outside, but it's soft in the middle. Being hard and soft, if you grab the edges of rocks, also the flat part of rocks, gives it a suction like effect. Allows it to be very sure-footed.
That one's going up.
Our keepers have actually timed some of these animals from going from the bottom to the top in less than 20 seconds. Predators can't even, they can't find it. Very well, very simply.
Look at the mama.
Oh yeah.
Different groups working together that have had the same sort of successes we have had. In the next year or so, we're going to be putting them back out into their reserve. He lives a solitary life. She's got about a 2.5-foot front. These are married with storks just below us here. They're about 8-foot blue span when they spread their wings. Greater and lesser flamingos on the shoreline. We will have North American white pelicans, and then the grayish colored pelicans will be pink-backed pelicans. You look at the valley area on the right-hand side, and this is our East African enclosure, 125 acres of land. And as I said before, that the entire San Diego Zoo and its parking lot can fit in our East African enclosure itself. We have our main enclosures and outlying ones in our village. We have built out about 900 acres so far, 2,200 acres total, so we still have 1,300 yet to be developed, which means that we're 20 years down the road and we haven't even reached 50% of our potential yet. So we are large and we are getting larger. Today you help us help them out because along with the San Diego Zoo, we're run by the San Diego Zoological Society, which is a non-profit group. That means that the money we get, we put right back into our endangered species program, as well as building out some of that 1,300 unused acres we talked about. As that's the majority of the funds we get come from our members and our visitors, that means that again, by coming out today, we push us along toward all those ultimate goals I'm talking about. And I just want to take this moment to say thank you. Flamingo Lagoon below us on the left as we enter back into the village of Womancare, where we fishing village there on the left-hand side. Across the water hole on the other side is where our animal care center is, a petty corral where you can get them. But they again have their own viewing platform. Come back and see them.
And this is Gia. Now watch as Gia uses that very long nose of hers to find food that has been hidden in our stage. Now in the wild, Gia, I think the rest of the food is off that way. Using that rope off, she uses that long tail as a counterbalance. Very agile. Gia, our Coatamundi. You know, sometimes when you look at a wild animal, especially one that looks like a Coatamundi or some other animal, you might think of them as being kind of cute and cuddly with all that fur and that face, but it really probably is not a very good idea to think of wild animals that way. It's probably a better idea if we think of something cute and cuddly to think more along the lines of something like a teddy bear. Now I'm kind of curious here, and I want the adults to be honest. How many of you have ever owned a teddy bear in your life? Come on, raise those hands. I thought most of you probably have. But did you ever know the story behind the teddy bear? It's really fascinating. You see, in 1902, President Theodore Roosevelt was out hunting one day, but he refused to shoot and kill a young black bear. Black bear, Jake. Now, being a black bear, Jake is one of 3 types of bears that are found here in North America. The other types are the polar bear and the brown or grizzly bear. Now, even though they're called black bears, you can tell by looking at Jake that they really don't have to have black-colored fur. As a matter of fact, black bears can range in color, from a rare blonde shade to a cinnamon to brown to the more common black face. Now, the respect and awe that Native American Indians felt towards bears can be seen in their arts and in their legends. For example, one story explains how the bear, by reaching up, would get its strength from the sun. And many tribes often refer to the bear as the animal who could stand up and walk just like a man. Now, in other areas of the world, some people believe that certain parts of the bear have a medicinal value, and as a result, bears are being slaughtered needlessly. As a matter of fact, it is believed that the bear's gallbladder is thought to be a cure-all, and it can bring as much as $18,000 on the black market. And I find it really sad to think that a 350-pound bear, much like Jake in size, would be killed just for its 8-ounce gallbladder. Now, throughout our history, we have viewed bears. But today we realize that with proper wildlife management, both bears and people can share some of the same spaces. And that's great news because that means in the future our children can continue to enjoy real live bears and move farther and farther away from us. But there were some species that were different. A few of them actually became comfortable having humans as their neighbors, and as a result, they kind of took advantage of our closeness, and they started looking for their food in places a lot closer to us. Places like our campsites, some in our trash bins, others even as close as inside our picnic baskets. Well, there is this one particular native wildlife that I'm talking about who's actually earned a reputation among most of us for being quite the little bandit. And here she is now. Hi, Betty. This is Betty, probably more commonly known as bandits. It's the most obvious. It's their appearance. It actually looks like a raccoon has a mask across its face. So I'm going to have Betty get closer to everyone here today to show off that mask. Okay, Betty. They're waiting all the way up. Nicely done, Betty. Tell you what, we want to make sure everybody gets a good view of that mask, so we don't want to leave you out. So, Betty, come on over here and show off that mask with pride. There we go. Good job. You know, the early explorers were really amazed when they saw raccoons in the process of getting a meal because they noticed how these animals move their hands around in the water a lot. So they thought that they had found an animal that, much like humans, actually washed its food before they ate it. But that really wasn't what they were seeing at all, because in the wild, raccoons forage mainly in muddy and murky streams. So they really can't rely on their eyesight in order to find their food, strictly by using that incredible sense of touch. You know, we were talking about these animals as being bandits. There is another reason besides their appearance, and that is their very mischievous nature. Raccoons do have a tendency to get into places that they really don't belong. Well, Betty is no exception. As a matter of fact, she's quite an accomplished little thief, and she'd like to demonstrate that ability for you today by stealing something out of my picnic basket. Okay, Betty, we'll steal. Let's see, she's trying to find her way in. She's given it, I think it's the other end, Betty. Oh, is there something in there? Well, Betty, there sure is! Hold on! Well done! Can I have it? She went all this way to give me an empty aluminum can. Well, thanks, Betty. This does remind me that we do have an extensive recycling program here at the Wild Animal Park, and we encourage all of you to be sure to use the recycling bins that are found throughout the park for your empty bottles and cans. Well, before Betty leaves today, she has
Why don't you go?
Anywhere. ¿Ya nos vamos ya? Okay.
Okay. Get in there, quick. Get in there. Get in there. Come more kids. Fight them off. All right, but Miriam, take it away. Son's there. Miriam, turn this way. Hurry up.
A ver, Iván, dame como una no, dale patita. Vete con mamá. Vete con mamá. Vamos.
Brenda. It's a wonderful day at the zoo on Saturday, July, whatever it is, 27th.
Animal Park, June 27th.
Wasn't even on. Try it again.
Okay, hi Jill again. Here we are on the rhino.
All right, now time for everybody to get on.
Okay. Boy, that was hard.
Yeah, hard work. All right, very good. Oh, I have to do the t-shirt sweatshirt. Yeah. Oh no, the monkey. Chill. Oi.
Police car here rolling as the earthquake hit. These pictures were taken near USC. USC, of course, there was some damage minor to a building there. A dormitory was evacuated. And this
well, let me tell you something, John. We just had a major aftershock here. It only lasted for about 5 or 6 seconds, but it felt just like the same intensity as the quake early this morning. And I was just driving around. So far, according to my scorecard here, we have had 32 aftershocks up here in Idlewild. I'm in Idlewild. To give you a location, it's up at the top of the San Jacinto Mountains. It's somewhere between Banning and Hemet, and we're up about 6,000 feet, and it's mostly decomposed granite that we're sitting on, and the shock waves just come up here like someone has plugged in an electric razor. I was driving around.
Just judging from...
We're having another one right now. I'm standing here shaking with another one. But I was driving around, and I got caught in one that was about a 4.5, and driving out there, it felt like I was driving on ice. And if you don't have to drive, stay out of your car, because I almost lost control of the car coming up the hill. In terms of damage and stuff, it's amazing that there hasn't been that much damage up here, but I was riding around. If the guy who owns the Idlewild Pharmacy wants to know, his store is pretty much of a mess. All the stuff is falling off the shelf. It's closed. But it is frightening, the intensity and the number of the aftershocks that we're having up at the top of this hill. In fact, you're looking at, Wendy, you're looking at the seismograph?
Yes,
well, we're feeling these things.
Yeah, and appreciably, you're near the epicenter, and the feelings are intense. We're going to go back to David Garcia right now, who is at Caltech, and may be able to give us some more specific information about what is going on, because this last one lasted a long while, and it felt big.
And everything was rolling in the studio. We felt at the same time you did, David. It lasted longer, and this is obvious, than David Horowitz felt it because of the time it takes to get here. David, let's go back to you. David Garcia, can you hear us?
Yes, John. Dr. Kate Hutton is talking right now, and preliminary indications, the aftershock was in the vicinity of 7, in the vicinity of a magnitude 7, just about the same as the main shock.
I don't, well, from what I felt, it's hard for me to say. You can only make very rough judgments from what you feel. And, you know, here I'm standing right next to the seismometers, and I can't move because of that.
Because of us.
So I really can't give you any more information, except that we had another one that was very large.
How long does it take to get information?
When can we expect to hear from Denver? Kay, the look on your face when this quake struck was amazing. You actually held the side of the wall from a seismologist's point of view. What did you think of that quake?
Well, I was trying to get as much information from feeling it as I could, and you know, if I'm holding the wall, I'm better connected to the ground.
You have a little drum right over here. Could you step over this direction?
Okay, let's try to. Let's all do this. Let's all do this, and we're moving all in unison. You can't believe the actual zoo that is here.
Everybody duck in front so we can see.
Let's all get down so Dr. Hutton can look. We're looking at goldstone.
This is not a time for. This is a time to inform the
This is
general public, no matter
Goldstone, which is north of
Can you
Riverside.
give us an indication now? Is it this one here? It's really, really heavy going.
Okay, well, as we see this edge right here, the pen won't move any farther than that. So what we're looking at is the edge of the recording for this earthquake, the one we just had.
Well, she is just looking at the
so you can
seismograph
see it
right
there.
now.
But you can see that all the aftershocks from the one at 5 o'clock are cluttering up the record, so it's very difficult to see it.
It would seem reliable that this happened around the same area. It would be an aftershock that would emanate from the same area as the one this morning?
It's most likely that it was in the same general area, but I can't say that it was on the same fault or anything like that, because it might not be.
At what point will we know if this was indeed a new earthquake and larger than the initial one this morning?
I hope within 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so.
Kate, you would say that we had earthquakes that were up to 6 points before. Do you think this was larger than that?
I think this is comparable to the quake we had at 5 o'clock this morning, so I would guess 7.
What does the seismic event mean, the severity of 2 quakes at this time?
Wait a minute. Now, Kate, the question is this. Is this a rolling type or a different type of shock?
Okay, well, to me, this one felt very similar to the one at 5 o'clock on Sagan. So I would guess that it's the same sort of distance and the same sort of magnitude.
Was this relieving any kind of stress, as been reported before?
Every earthquake relieves stress, and larger earthquakes relieve much more stress. So yes, this did, in fact, relieve stress. But they also move stress around.
You had said earlier that there was a 5% chance that it might be, that what we felt this morning at 4:48 might be a foreshock. What do you, I mean, is there any indication, if indeed this was comparable to the first one, as to whether the 4:48...
Big Bear Lake. And the time was 8:04.
Where does that compare to the first epicenter? To me, the shock at 4:58 or whatever.
The question
Okay,
is,
this one is actually near San Bernardino, so it's to the west.
West.
Yeah,
how many miles was
different
that?
location. No, it's not the same fault line.
Is this unusual to have two separate quakes on different fault lines?
Was this going to be considered a second earthquake?
This would be considered a second earthquake.
Why is that?
And, well, because it's not in the same geographic location.
Is this unusual, Doctor?
Let us finish. Okay?
Yeah, I'm finished. It is unusual, but not that unusual, to have an earthquake. The change in strain that accompanies an earthquake on one fault changes strain enough on nearby fault to trigger it. Another example of that would be the Whittier Narrows earthquake, where the aftershocks that happened a few days after the main shock was on a different fault.
Are we going to suffer now from aftershocks from two different fault lines? Will it be double the...
We will probably see aftershocks from both, right?
No, was this on the Kate, this one was described...
It was apparently not on the San Andreas, but it's not that far away. It's between 5 and 10 miles away.
It's going to trigger an alert for something.
We will be getting to you on that.
Kate, could you describe this as a shallow quake? In other words, it's not as deep, but higher up?
We don't know what the depth was at this point. We don't have that information.
It was mentioned to me that it was a shallow quake. That means it's upper surface.
Almost all earthquakes in California are shallow by worldwide standards.
The first quake.
Now this one was...
The first quake.
Almost all of our quakes are within a few miles down to about 15 miles from the surface.
Is it similar to the situation that existed in Northern California when one quake...
So that's another example of two earthquakes that occurred close in time on nearby but not the same fault.
So
it does happen once in a while, yes.
Was this a
or both were triggered by some internal strain change in the crust.
Is there some kind of an exponential nature now?
Different kind of earthquake in terms of movement?
She just moved it in there.
Okay, well we're going to, because this quake is close to the San Andreas, there's going to be information coming out about whether there's an alert level for the earthquake. We don't have that information at the moment.
But that is an issue.
But it's an issue because it's close to the San Andreas.
Also, the alert level that comes from the state of California, not from Caltech.
We don't have the focal mechanism yet for this earthquake, so we don't know which direction the fault trended or how the motion.
North or south?
Dr. Jones, I'm sorry, Dr. Hutton, to be clear on this alert situation, the alert comes from the state of California,
the
from
alert
the
will
Office
come
of
from the
Emergency
state
Preparedness.
if there is one. And we don't have any information about it at this point. Okay, let me go into a little bit more detail about that. When we go back to the April earthquakes, there was an alert, not a warning, but just a pay attention alert from the state that because the earthquakes were close to the San Andreas, and there was some concern that they might have triggered something on the San Andreas. And because this one is also close to the San Andreas, I would expect them to do something like that this time. But we don't have any information at this point on the details of that.
So this was significantly closer to the San Andreas than the first one at 4:48?
It was closer to San Andreas than the one we had for this moment.
How does it compare with the one in April?
It's a similar distance from the San Andreas, but a different part of the San Andreas. This is the Big Bear Lake area as opposed to the Desert Hot Springs area.
Is that a number of earthquakes in recent times here? Does that make any significance? Does it have any significance to the fact that we've had two today?
Okay, well we don't really know the significance of this, but we do look at the long-term frequency of earthquakes, and there is the seismic cycle theory, where as you build up over the decades, years and decades prior to a great earthquake, there's an increased number of large shocks over the years and decades. Okay, so it doesn't mean that there's any immediate concern, but it means if you're a building planner or something, or an emergency planner, you would be concerned concerned about it.
You study earthquakes, and suddenly you were in the middle of one here. What was your feeling as you felt that one at 808?
Well, I was trying to hang on to the wall to get a better feeling for what the ground was doing. I was very conscious of all the microphones.
Dr. Hudson, if indeed there was some kind of a triggering effect here where some kind of shock may have triggered one or both of these earthquakes today, is it significant that what was triggered was more than 7.0 in magnitude in both cases, or 7.0 and higher? Is the strength of these relevant in looking at the triggering effect here in terms of what could happen in the future?
Well, the size of an earthquake,
We're going to stay with the interview at Caltech. We want you to know these pictures that you're seeing are still coming in from the Joshua Tree area, and these are new. You're seeing them the first time. This is damage this morning from the first quake. We'll go back to the audio from Caltech, and you'll see these pictures at the same time we see them for the first time.
Preliminary magnitude 7.0, located 6 miles southeast of Big Bear Lake. That's the same information.
So we're talking about two separate
earthquake sequences.
On different faults.
Probably different faults.
Okay, does this mean now? Coming from Golden, Colorado, or from your people?
This information is from us, but it's very preliminary. When we get the golden number, we will go with it probably.
Earlier today, the National Service calibrated it at a higher level than you did here. Is that possible for this one as well?
Okay, well, the magnitudes that we do here are what we call local magnitudes, and they work well for earthquakes smaller than about 6 to 6.5. When we get up into the higher numbers, the so-called surface wave magnitude is usually better, and that's what the 7.4 was. Okay, so that's why as soon as we get the number from Golden, we will probably use
Is there any indication, Kate, that earthquakes could be moving in a general direction?
Well, 2 earthquakes is not enough to determine a trend
Is there any indication yet about the length of this earthquake you've just experienced and how much that has to do with what its magnitude is?